2 million like-new outboard engines now sit unsold as dealers slash prices by over 70%. They are trying to escape a tidal wave of debt triggered by pandemic over-ordering and a sharp collapse in demand. But why are these so-called nearly new engines being liquidated at fire sale prices, and what hidden risks are lurking beneath the deals buyers can't resist? The story behind one of the marine industry's most drastic panics is about to surface. In the first months of 2020, marine dealerships scrambled to keep up with a surge unlike anything the industry had seen before. As lockdown swept across the country, thousands of Americans turned to boating to escape crowded cities and find space outdoors. Dealers who once waited months for new outboard shipments suddenly found themselves with wait lists stretching out the door. Manufacturers responded by ramping up production lines to full throttle, and allocation numbers soared, with some brands doubling or even tripling quarterly shipments to meet the new demand. Dealers placed orders for entire truckloads of engines, eager to secure inventory before their competitors. Invoices stacked up, and warehouse managers cleared every available square foot to receive new arrivals. By late 2021, the optimism was palpable. Showrooms overflowed with gleaming outboards still in factory wrap. Floor plan financing made it easy to borrow against the promise of quick sales, and every engine on the lot represented future profit. Some dealers took on more stock than ever before, betting that the boom would last for years. In the rush, few questioned the risks. Manufacturer contracts required minimum quarterly shipments, and refusing inventory could mean losing access to next year's most in-demand models. The pressure to accept every crate was relentless. Production lines at Yamaha, Mercury, Suzuki, and Honda ran at record pace. Reports from the period show some plants operated around the clock, with overtime shifts and temporary labor brought in to fill the gap. By the end of 2022, the market was saturated. Engines meant for buyers who never showed up began to pile up in back rooms and off-site storage. Some dealers resorted to renting extra warehouse space just to keep up with incoming shipments. The sense of prosperity was everywhere, until it was not. As pandemic restrictions eased and interest rates began to climb, consumer demand for outboards cooled almost overnight. What started as a race to secure inventory now set the stage for a different kind of struggle. Warehouses, once seen as symbols of success, became reminders of overconfidence. The glut of engines, stacked row after row, became impossible to ignore. The seeds of the current crisis had been sown in the frenzy of the pandemic ordering spree. Rows of outboard engines, once prized and carefully inventoried, now sit exposed to the elements on crowded dealer lots. Each crate represents a ticking clock. The longer an engine remains unsold, the faster its value drops, sometimes by thousands of dollars in a single season. Model year refresh cycles come relentlessly. As soon as a new engine is announced, last year's stock becomes old news. Dealers who took delivery in 2022 now face the reality that their latest and greatest has already been eclipsed by updated models with new features, improved fuel management, or stricter emissions compliance. Engines stored for months, even in their original packaging, are not immune to time. Humidity seeps into warehouses and storage yards, quietly beginning the process of corrosion. Metal surfaces develop a thin film of oxidation, wiring harnesses become brittle, and seals lose their flexibility. Technicians report that even a factory-wrapped outboard can show signs of internal rust or pitted bearings after just a year in less than ideal conditions. The cost to inspect, maintain, and recondition these aging units rises with every month they remain unsold. The industry's rapid pace of innovation only adds pressure. Manufacturers like Yamaha and Mercury release incremental updates, digital controls, connectivity, or efficiency tweaks that instantly date the engines still sitting on dealer floors. Buyers, drawn to the promise of the latest tech, become harder to convince as each week passes. Dealers are left with a dilemma: hold out for a buyer and risk deeper losses, or slash prices and accept that every engine left on the lot is a shrinking asset. For many, the financial strain is acute. Storage fees, insurance premiums, and the cost of borrowed money pile up. In some regions, the monthly expense to keep unsold inventory has doubled since 2023. The longer these engines sit, the more desperate the math becomes. Every unsold outboard is a reminder that in this business, time is the enemy. The reality is clear. What was once a symbol of prosperity has become a liability, and the only way out is to move aging stock, no matter the price. Every outboard engine on a dealer's floor is more than just a piece of inventory. It is a financial contract with a timer running in the background. Most dealers do not own these engines outright. Instead, they rely on floor plan financing, a system that lets them stock up by borrowing against each unit. For a while, the math worked. As long as engines sold quickly, interest payments were manageable, and the next shipment could be paid for with the proceeds from the last. But as demand collapsed and engines began to linger, the rules changed almost overnight. Lenders set strict repayment schedules, known as curtailments. After 90 days, a dealer must pay back a portion of the principal, often 10% or more, on every unsold engine. If the engine still does not move, the cycle repeats, draining more cash each month. By spring 2025, these monthly outflows had jumped by more than 50% for many dealers. A floor plan that once cost $11,600 a month to maintain could now require over $18,000 just to stand still. Every unsold outboard became a liability, not just because of fallen value, but because of the relentless pressure to repay borrowed money, even as sales dried up. The calendar becomes an enemy. Each engine's clock resets with every curtailment, and with every reset, the cash drain intensifies. Some dealers, unable to keep pace, see their reserves evaporate. If a payment is missed, lenders can accelerate the debt, demanding full repayment or seizing all inventory. The threat of bankruptcy looms over every decision. Storage and insurance costs add another layer, doubling in some regions since 2023. The longer engines sit, the more expensive they become to keep. Manufacturer contracts only tighten the noose. Refusing new shipments or failing to meet sales quotas can mean losing access to next year's most popular models, or even the franchise itself. For many, the only way out is to liquidate, even if it means taking a loss on every engine. The countdown is visible in every warehouse and on every spreadsheet. Dealers are forced to choose: keep paying ever-increasing bills for stock that may never sell, or cut prices to the bone and hope to survive until the next season. The financial mechanics behind the scenes are ruthless, and the clock never stops ticking. June 2024. In a cavernous Miami auction hall, 600 outboard engines line up in rows: Yamaha, Mercury, Suzuki, Honda, many still wrapped in factory plastic. The catalog lists sticker prices as high as $25,000, but the opening bids barely clear $5,000. Within hours, the floor is a blur of paddles and rapid-fire gavel strikes, panic rising. Engines that once represented a dealer's entire season of profit are now selling for a fraction of invoice. A late-model Yamaha F200 with an original dealer cost of $19,250 moves for $7,800. Mercury 150 models, once valued at nearly $18,000, change hands for $5,900. One auction lot after another closes at 60 to 70% below the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The sell-through rate approaches 100%. Every engine must go, no matter the loss. The ripple spreads fast. Regional dealers watch the auction results in real time, phones lighting up with fresh price data. A market analyst tracks the numbers, noting that the Miami event alone resets the entire price structure for the Gulf Coast and beyond. The analyst's report is blunt. These drops are historic. Engines once considered investments are now liabilities, and dealers who don't match these prices risk being finished. Within days, listings across Florida and Texas reflect the new reality. Outboards that sat for months at $14,000 are suddenly marked down to $4,500. Dealers who hesitate see buyers vanish. Some try to hold the line, but the auction prices set an unavoidable benchmark. Competing shops, desperate to clear their own aging stock, undercut each other in a race to the bottom. The Miami auction's price graph, once a gentle slope, now plunges, a visual record of panic and forced liquidation. Buyers from as far as Georgia and Alabama arrive, hoping to flip engines for a quick profit. Most leave empty-handed or with units they struggle to resell. Export brokers swoop in, snapping up bulk lots with manufacturer rebates, moving engines overseas to avoid further depressing the domestic market. For every engine that leaves the floor, a new price anchor is established, one that no dealer can ignore. By the end of summer, the Miami event is cited across the industry as the moment the price floor collapsed. Dealers in the Midwest and West Coast, facing their own warehouse auctions, are forced to follow suit. The days of holding out for retail are over. The auction is spoken, and every dealer, buyer, and lender is now playing by a new set of rules. Like new, the phrase appears on tags, auction listings, and dealer websites, but its meaning is anything but simple. In the current outboard market, 5 distinct categories hide behind the label, each with its own story and its own risks. First, there are demo units. These engines spent their early hours on test boats or showroom floors. They have been run, sometimes hard, but cleaned up and repackaged for resale. Next are customer returns. Some come back after a single trip, others after weeks on the water. Dealers inspect, fix minor issues, and put them back on the lot. Refurbished engines make up a third group. These have been through a technician's hands, repaired after minor accidents, swapped parts, or given a cosmetic overhaul to erase scars of prior use. Then come the crate-aged units, engines that never left their boxes but sat for months or years in storage, quietly aging as technology moved on. Finally, there are the cosmetically restored, engines with fresh paint, new decals, and buffed covers, but with unknown hours or hidden internal wear beneath the surface. A refurbishing technician explains it this way: you can have an engine that looks perfect on the outside, but unless you check the engine control unit, compression, and lower unit, you're guessing. Each category comes with its own set of questions: how many hours, what kind of use, and what has been done to bring it back to like-new shape. For buyers, understanding these categories is the first step in seeing past the marketing and into the true condition of an engine. Without this lens, every deep discount is a roll of the dice. A digital hour meter flashes 19.5 hours as a marine inspector scrolls through the diagnostic screen. The engine, a Mercury 150 four-stroke, was bought at a Miami auction in March 2024, advertised as a demo unit with just 10 hours. It looked flawless on the outside, fresh paint and all, but the buyer's luck ran out before the second month. On a routine offshore run, the engine sputtered, lost power, and then died. A technician's report from SeaTech Marine details the aftermath: 2 fuel injectors clogged beyond repair, a damaged ECU, and a ruined fuel pump. The repair bill reached $4,150, more than half the auction price, and nearly triple the savings from the discount. The inspector moves through a standard checklist. First, the ECU dump. Total hours match the claim, but error logs show repeated misfire warnings and injector faults in the first 10 hours. Compression tests reveal uneven readings across cylinders, hinting at internal wear. The lower unit oil, drained into a clear vial, shows a milky sheen, evidence of water intrusion, likely from a worn seal. A paint gauge finds thick layers on the midsection, confirming a recent cosmetic respray. Fasteners around the cowling bear fresh tool marks, a sign of prior disassembly. None of these flaws were visible in the auction listing photos. The buyer's warranty claim is denied. Mercury's policy excludes auction demo units from coverage, especially those sold as is. The buyer files a complaint with the state, but the auction house declines responsibility. The engine, now sidelined by costly repairs, stands as a warning. Beneath the surface of a bargain, real risks lurk. Forensic inspection, compression testing, oil sampling, ECU review, and paint thickness checks become the only defense against hidden failure. Each test tells its own story, and together they reveal what the price tag cannot. A dealer representative stands in a back office, paperwork spread across the desk. The numbers are plain. Storage costs have doubled. Lenders demand payment, and every unsold engine threatens the future of the business. The representative explains that clearance does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it is pure economics. They have to move stock or lose their franchise. They are not hiding anything. They are just out of time. A market analyst reviews auction data from the past 6 months. The pattern is unmistakable. Hundreds of engines, many with less than 25 hours, sold at prices no dealer could have imagined 2 years ago. The analyst says these drops are historic. It is not about dumping junk. It is about survival. Dealers who do not adapt get left behind. For buyers, the landscape is daunting, but not without hope. Refurbishment programs have emerged at some dealerships, offering engines that have passed a full compression test, an ECU scan, and a lower unit inspection. Documentation is often available, including service records and diagnostic printouts, and in some cases a short-term dealer-backed warranty. Parts support can be a concern for older models, but most engines from major brands still have solid aftermarket supply chains. A marine inspector offers a checklist. Always demand an ECU printout showing total hours and error logs. Compare compression readings on all cylinders. Inspect lower unit oil for water or metal. Check for fresh paint or tool marks that could hide previous repairs. Ask for proof of warranty and verify parts availability by serial number. The analyst's outlook is blunt. Surplus will remain high through 2026, and deep discounts are here to stay. For those willing to do the homework, real value can be found. The key is vigilance. In a market shaped by macroeconomic forces and dealer desperation, information is the buyer's best shield. Today, 2 million outboards sit in limbo, priced to move, but shadowed by uncertainty. As inventory gluts collide with rising financial pressures, the lines between opportunity and risk blur for every buyer. The real cost isn't just measured in dollars, it's trust in what is left unsaid. In this market, every deal hides a story, and the final chapter is still being written.